Hello, how you doing? My name's Ian. It is Sunday, the 19th of May. The sun is shining. Doesn't feel like Scotland at the moment, but it is. And this is episode 6 of Too Many Books. What have we got coming up today? Well, I've got a wee haul to run through. So over the last week or so, I've picked up some quite tasty little books to collect, to read. And I've read a few books as well, so let's just have a wee batter through and show you what all of these things are. Isn't it wonderful? Right, let's have a look at the haul first. I do like, just notice my glasses are still stuck on top of my head. Don't need them just now, which is good. Right, book haul time. Andy Weir wrote The Martian. I've got several copies of The Martian sat in my eBay store, and I keep meaning to pull one out and leave it on the shelf for reading, and I keep forgetting to do that, but I will at some point. But when I was out and about, I found a copy of Artemis, so it comes after The Martian, it would appear. Obviously, it's not a series or anything, but it looks rather good. I think this was his second book, so grabbed a copy of that, and it's now on the shelf waiting to be read. I might read it quite soon, just to get me into the mood of going and finally reading into The Martian. But welcome to Artemis, the first city of the moon, population 2,000, mostly tourists, some criminals. So yeah, looking forward to that. Andy Weir, The Martian, movie with Matt Damon. I've seen the film, that's why I don't keep rushing to read the book, because I already know the story as such, but obviously don't know that at all, so looking forward to reading that one. Next, now I picked up a whole stack of these, well, 4 or 5. The Hydrogen Sonata by Iain Banks, one of the shops I pop into. They had a whole pile of, I think they've come from Amazon, to be honest, and I took all of them because Iain Banks sells reasonably well on eBay, and I've not read that one. I did love the culture books by Mr. Banks. I know I haven't read them all. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 that I haven't read out of all of his culture novels. This is one of them. I've had it a couple of times, but this time, because I got a few of them, decided I'm going to hold on to a copy of that, and I am going to read it because I do love Iain Banks. That's the Hydrogen Sonata. If you've not read the culture or any of the culture books, consider Phlebas, the Use of Weapons, Player of Games. There's a few of them. They are absolutely brilliant. I loved them. When I first read them many years ago, I didn't think I liked sci-fi. I thought I just liked Iain Banks. Since I've read a few sci-fi books, I'm thinking, actually, maybe I do quite enjoy the genre. But yeah, they made a huge impression on me. Absolutely loved them. Iain Banks and his culture books. Next, one for the collection. Now, I've got this guy's latest set of short stories pre-ordered, due in the next couple of days, actually. So looking forward to that appearing. But when I was out and about, I found a nice wee copy of Just After Sunset by Mr. Stephen King. So part of the Stephen King collection for me. It is a first edition, which is kind of nice, from 2008. And I did have a wee look to see if there was any stories in here that I recognised from other things, because I don't think I've actually read this collection. Nothing is jumping out, but I know sometimes the titles get changed when they get made into movies and TV shows for Netflix and such like. So yeah, a nice wee Stevie King first edition for the collection. Another one for the collection, another book that I've read before, I've owned before, got rid of before, but now I'm struggling valiantly to try and get the full Song of Ice and Fire Game of Thrones books in hardcover. I've got them in paperback, I don't know how many times over, but I found a nice wee copy of A Knights of the Seven Kingdoms. I don't think this was a first. No, it's not a first edition. I mean, it's not a particularly valuable or difficult book to find or buy, but I don't see the hardcover in good condition in the world very often, so when I saw it I thought, right, I'm having that, and that's going in the George R.R. Martin shelf. Fever Dream. I want a first edition of Fever Dream. I know it's nothing to do with Game of Thrones, but it's one of my favourite books by him. Next, 4 by the same author. So, first up, now I read Joe Abercrombie, A Little Hatred, because I was looking for a gap in my George R.R. Martin brain parts, You know what I mean? So Joe Abercrombie had been recommended, read A Little Hatred, loved it, realised that that's a second trilogy set in whatever world it is. So went out and started looking for the earlier ones, but I did find the Wisdom of Crowds. So is this the second book in the Age of Madness? No, it's the third book in the Age of Madness trilogy. Have I got the Trouble with Peace? Yeah, I've got the Trouble with Peace in paperback, and I've picked that one up in hardcover. So I'm going to try and find these in hardcover just to add to them. Again, they're not like crazy collectible expensive books, but I do like them. They're very, very pretty for what they are. If you've not read Joe Abercrombie and you like George Martin, definitely give it a go. It's been a very, very pleasant surprise. More Joe Abercrombie, and this is the last of the pickups actually. Somebody had been obviously donating a collection. I got this at the same time as the Wisdom of Crowds. Half a King, Half the World and Half a War. So another Abercrombie trilogy. Not read any of these. I don't know if these were first editions or if they're just what they are. No, that's a second print. Half a War. Lovely book. Half the World. Oh, it's a firstie. So yeah, first edition of Half the World. And Half a King, which is a fifth print, so again, not a first. I don't know if these get anything to do with the First Law trilogies. I don't know. Doesn't look like it. But really looking forward to reading these at some point in the not too distant future. Half a King, the wee first print. So again, now I've got them, I'll be looking to upgrade when I see them. So I think that's the first time I've ever seen any of them in hardcover kicking about. So I'm saying that could be a year before I see anything else. Could be 2 years, could be 2 days. Could go out today and see them, who knows. But I will be looking to get them in the wee first editions, and then the ones that move out the collection I flip on eBay, and hopefully that covers the cost of picking up some of the future books. So that was the pickups. Artemis by Andy Weir, Iain M. Banks, The Hydrogen Sonata, Mr. Stephen King, Just After Sunset, George Martin, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and then by Joe Abercrombie, The Wisdom of Crowds, Half a War, Half the World, and Half a King. So that's been quite a good personal haul over the last week or so, yeah, probably 10 days, something like that. I've grabbed that lot. Yeah, really happy with that. Gives me plenty of variation in my to be read pile. I have tried to say, right, I want to read this book, then this book, then this book, but I read a book and then I think, I don't want to read that one next, I want to read something different. And that might be because it's something I've watched on TV that's made me think about it, a YouTube video where somebody's recommended a book, somebody else talking about something else, or whatever is going on in the world just makes me think, no, I'm going to read that one. Which kind of takes us to the, what have I read so far in May? Last video kind of covered what I'd read at the start of the month, which was really, really slow first few days in the month. I didn't get much done at all. But the last kind of 9-10 days, the weather's been nice, the garden's been comfy, it's been nice to sit out. I was going to say in the sun, but to be honest, I sit in the shade. I'm just away from the sun, so you feel the warmth, but you don't get the cancer. That's the plan. Anyway, the first book that I read, well, the second book I read this month, but the first book that I've read since I last spoke to you was Theo Clare, The Book of Sand. You'll have heard me spouting about Mohader, Theo Clare, more than once if you've watched any of these videos. Fantastic thriller writer was Mohader. Now writing as Theo Clare. This is the first in a series of fantasy stories, The Book of Sand, set in a desert. I'm not going to talk too much about it because there's too many spoilers could get thrown in there, but what it says on the back is, enter a world of shimmering heat and shifting sands, where danger lies around every corner, where death lurks as night falls, and you will kill just to stay alive. Ooh. And that really doesn't tell you anything about the book whatsoever. But it was good. It was really good. Sadly, Theo Clare, Mohader, passed away shortly before this was published. So the next book I think was meant to be The Book of Clouds. So there's some sort of thematic thing there. Never written obviously never going to be published. We're never going to know what was next in her mind for these characters, for this group, for this world, which is, it's a great shame, because it was really, really good. Not the best fantasy book I've ever read, not the best book I've ever read, but she writes really, really beautifully. It's a really quick and easy read. The characters are all convincing. Authors, I think a lot of authors seem to struggle. Men can't write women, women can't write men, older men can't write kids, and you know, there's many exceptions to that. That is not a rule across everything, but it's very rare to find an author who can actually write all of these different characters and do so convincingly without them just being a kind of stereotype thrown in there. And Mohair Theo Clara, for me, I've always felt that she was able to do that. So yeah, once again, achieved that there. If you've not read it, is it worth a read? Most definitely. If you enjoyed the thrillers, then it's obviously a completely different genre, very, very different story, but it still feels like a Mohair book, even though it's obviously Theo Clara that's on there. And it's sad that not never going to find out where this went, because it was quite an intriguing wee story, and it ends in a way that's obviously set up to keep going. So yeah, a shame, but yeah, good book. Would recommend it, definitely recommend it. Next, so this one wasn't really on my to be read list. I'd found this book, and then I'd been looking it up, and I saw, oh, there's a second one that's come out more recently, and on the back of the second one it said something along the lines of George R.R. Martin crossed with Terry Pratchett. That intrigued me. It did. I really enjoyed the humour in Joe Abercrombie, but it wasn't Terry Pratchett type humour, so I thought, right, let's give this a wee go. So I'd found a copy. I'd picked it up for my reselling, but then when I looked at it, it got me intrigued, so I decided to hold on to it. And it's Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. I've seen a couple of reviews of this, and it's a bit so-so, and it is not great literature, and it's not pretending to be great literature, but what it is a really fun read. It's definitely got that whole grimdark thing going on, but it's got a wee bit of that absurdist humour as well. So where Joe Abercrombie, it's just a bit humorous, this definitely has shades of kind of Terry Pratchett's absurdity. It goes a wee bit daft at times, but then it's still very much in that violent Middle Ages, Dark Ages type fantasy book. So John Gwynne liked it. Never read his books, but apparently he's quite good, which is always good. So yeah, I would recommend Kings of the Wild if you're looking for something that's a bit of a romp, characters that are easy to understand and follow because they all fit into their little niches very, very, very nicely. Go with Kings of the Wild. It's fun. Bunch of old boys getting the band back together to go and do a bit of maiden rescuing, with lots of adventures along the way. So yeah, give it a go. Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. The second one I do have, and it's Bloody Rose, and I'll be reading that not too far down the line. It's definitely a kind of summer beach book, if that's your genre, you know, if you like that type of thing. It's easy to just sit down and ping through the pages on a nice sunny day, so it's a good summer one there. What did I read after that? I did manage to get a wee bit of a run going on. This is another one that was not on my to be read list, and I had picked up to resell, and then I kept seeing it everywhere, and then on the front I noticed it said Ender, Katniss and now Darrow. Now Katniss, The Hunger Games was okay. I read the books, they were quite good. Obviously not aimed at my demographic, but I quite enjoyed them. They were dark and edgy enough that it made sense. Ender Wiggins, Ender's Game, Orson Scott Card, absolutely brilliant. Ender's Game is, I think, definitely up there in my top 10 books of what I've read. I think, the 3 books that came after it as well. There's a few others around that series, that world, that universe that I've not read. But Ender's Game was absolutely brilliant, so I thought, let's see who this Darrow geezer is and see if Red Rising by Pierce Brown lives up to the hype. It did. It was really, really good. I thought it was going to be a bit kind of YA, but it wasn't. It was pretty grim. And what I really enjoyed about it was it gets right into it, man. It doesn't mess about. It's not a big, epic, massive book. It's just a lot of story and not a lot of pages, which is fantastic. So the pacing's excellent. I think I read this in about a day, kind of like 2 sittings. It just battered through, absolutely battered through. Before you know it, you're right into the meat of the story, and it just keeps going from there and there and there. And there's 6 or 7 books in the series, something like that. I'm really, really looking forward to finding some more and getting stuck into them there. But I'm not going to go out and just buy them on Amazon or whatever. I am going to wait and find them in the wild, so that when I get one, I can get excited and know that I'm going to read it. When I was reading it, it was really, really good. There was I meant to mark the page and I completely forgot. But it's somebody going on about who, do you want me to be a general, a great killer like Caesar, blah blah blah, or Wigan. So it's got a wee reference to, it's suggesting that it comes in the same universe as Ender, Ender's Game, Ender Wigan, which was, I really liked that little touch, because that was such a great book. And if you've seen the movie, I thought the movie was great too. I really enjoyed the film, and I saw that before I read the book, when it was that kind of film to watch with the kids. And then the book was just like phenomenally good, and it was great. It was just a nice wee, I know what that means, which probably nearly enough everyone who reads it will know exactly what that's talking about there. But it was really nice to see that in there. So Red Rising, should you read it? Yes. Have you read it? You probably have read it already. I'm very late in the game coming to this one. There's no doubt in that whatsoever. But definitely really enjoyed it. Well worth a read. And it just jumps into the story and keeps going, which is fantastic. Next, another book I read in a day. This is a book that I assumed I had read. I thought I must have read that. I know the story inside out. There's no way I could not have read that book. But it turns out I hadn't. Carrie by Stephen King. So I've got a paperback copy of this. Right, old vintage one, which I really, really love that. Look at that book. There she is, Sissy. But I saw this had come out, and I just bought it. I don't often buy new books full price, but I did. I thought, I like that. That'll look lovely on the old Stephen King, because I ain't going to find a first edition of Carrie very easily. So yeah, I thought that'll do in its stead. And I thought, I might as well read it. It's a short book. I mean, this was his first novel. It is a short book, and just getting straight into it was like, this is not what I was expecting. This is very, very different. And what seems to happen with a lot of Stephen King book to movie adaptations is the big moments in the movies don't exist in the books. The Shining is a great example of that. The maze in The Shining in the movie, that's not in the book. It's topiary animals, and the topiary animals absolutely scared the living out of me. I found them terrifying. I didn't want to read the book because I wanted to be looking over my shoulder to make sure things weren't moving. That was a big kind of like, why is that not in the film? But then the maze and a lot surrounding that was in the film that wasn't in the book, and, vice versa. And very much the same. A lot of the iconic scenes from the movie, they just don't exist in this story at all. In fact, the way it goes through, this is different enough from the film that those scenes couldn't really exist in the book, because it just didn't fit with what was going on. Some of those iconic scenes are obviously in the book, but a couple of them are missing. And as I was reading it, I was wondering, how are they going to squeeze that in here now? That's not going to... And obviously didn't, because it didn't happen. But yeah, cracking read. Obviously, a first novel from any author is not going to be nowhere near their best work later in their career. Well, sometimes the first is the best and they don't get any better after that. But yeah, really enjoyed it. It was a read it in a day type book. Really quick and easy to read, and a beautiful little copy of it too. So Carrie by Stephen King, new young author on the scene. If you've never heard of him, yeah, definitely worth giving him a go. Stephen, spelt PH, not with a V, just in case you weren't sure. I think this came out the year I was born, which would explain the 50th anniversary edition. It's taken me that long to get to this book. Anyway, Carrie by Stephen King. Definitely worth a read if you haven't read it before. Definitely worth a read if you've seen the movie and think you know the book. Yeah, give it a crack. Right, that's everything I've finished. What am I reading at the moment? Well, I mentioned Joe Abercrombie. Really enjoyed A Little Hatred. Read a few books since then and thought, right, it's time to go back and get started at the beginning with Joe Abercrombie. So I've got a copy of The Blade itself. Why did I decide to start reading this right now? Well, me mammy, now I'm 50 this year, so me mammy, who's a generation beyond that, in her 70s, let's be polite and just say in her 70s, I said, oh, I'm reading a Joe Abercrombie book, have you got a copy of it? And it's like, no, I don't think I do actually. The Blade itself, that's what she's reading it on her Kindle, but she wanted a hard copy as well so that she could use that to flick back and remind herself who various characters were, and hoped that the hard copy might have a map on it and all of these things. And I said, no, I don't think I've got a copy of that. Turns out I did. I had picked up a copy and I just forgot it was sitting there. Now when she mentioned that, I thought, she's not getting ahead of me. No way, man. These books are for the kids. 50-year-old man. Not for some women in her 70s. Not happening. So when I realised I had it, I was about to message and say, actually, I do have it. I'll drop it round. I thought, no, actually, I'm going to read it first. I'll just read it, and then if she's still going through it, I'll pass it over to her. So she said she was about halfway through when I spoke to her yesterday, and I got started on it, and it's going rather well. So loving it. Yeah, it's great. Glockta, Inquisitor Glockta, obviously he appears in the later trilogy as well. Absolutely cracking character. Logan Ninefingers, brilliant. The Magus, the magic dudes, who were kind of spoken about in A Little Hatred but didn't really appear massively within that story. Obviously much bigger part in this. Really enjoying it, absolutely loving it. If you liked Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin, and you're looking for something to fill a gap, and you've never read Joe Abercrombie, which seems unlikely. I'm always last to these things. It's like, 6 years after everyone's talking about it, I go, oh, that seems familiar, I think I'll read it. And that's where I've got to with The Blade itself at the moment. So really loving it. That's what I'm reading just now. And then when I've done with that, I will resist the urge to jump straight on with another Joe Abercrombie. I'm going to pick up something a little bit different, I think, just to break it all up. So my next planned read is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. Read Blacktop Wasteland last month, absolutely loved it. Brilliant kind of thriller. So I'm going to try another of his, Razorblade Tears. Again, it's been raved about, gets fantastic reviews, so that's probably next. But I do have another few to choose from. I've been getting started on a lot of series of late, so let's say the Joe Abercrombie books, Kings of the Wild, Nicholas Eames. What else was it I got wedged into, or that I have? I've got the first book in The Expanse, James A. Corey. I've got Hugh Howey, Wool, so that's, if you've seen Silo on Apple TV, that's the first book in that series. Yes, I'm going to start in a few different series and I will see where I go with that. I've also got a stack of Greg Hurwitz sitting up there that I want to read, and they're going to be kind of summer books, so when I've got that wee chill afternoon, I'll maybe just wire into one of them instead. But for now, I'm going to probably get Joe Abercrombie finished today or tomorrow, and move on to another S.A. Cosby, which was phenomenal. And that's where we are at. So, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Hope this has been of interest somehow or other. I did get my little bookmarks made up to include in my eBay sales. So just themed, author themed I'm going for, and it's just that wee QR code. It's an excuse to get people here's my eBay shop if you want to buy more stuff. So I've been sending these out with all my orders. That's the one for May 2024, and I've also got one that's ordered and ready to go for next month, which is June, obviously. And I shared this briefly in another video, but coming in June we've got a bit of Benchley. So yeah, they're just a bit of fun. They're not meant to be anything particularly serious, putting them out with the orders, but yeah, a wee Crichton bookmark. So if anybody's desperate for one of those, you need to buy a book in my store, man. You know, what can I say? I'm not even going to tell you what that is because I can't be bothered. But thanks for watching. If you've not already, like, subscribe, leave a comment. What are you reading? What do you think of my opinions of these books? That lot that I've picked up in the last few days, is there anything in there that I should jump on and read straight away? You know, let me know. And I shall see you next time. Bye bye.